We'll call this Wednesday, June 30th, 2026 Finance Committee meeting to order at just after 9 o'clock, well, about 9 o'clock. And we'll do the roll call.
Director Delgado?
Here.
Director Shirley? Here. Director Blackwalter? We have a quorum.
Thank you. Any public communications online?
I see no comments online.
Okay, we'll open public comment. No one here to comment. We'll close public comment and move to the budget.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce the final budget changes that were in the budget. So if you've reviewed your packet, we've updated our narrative around the budget. We've updated the PowerPoint. And I'd like to spend a few minutes discussing some of the changes that we identified from the draft into the final, just based on assumptions that we were using and then getting the actuals put into play. And so for the first one, we had two primary changes. First one was personnel cost increased by about $172,000, primarily due to the COLA. We had an assumption of 3% in there for the COLA for April. It came out at 3.8. So we went ahead and made the changes, and that delta was $172,000 going from a 3% COLA to 3.8. The second we identified was the 1-year offset of capital infrastructure reserve and the contribution methodology around our capital investments, knowing that we also have pretty significant capital projects that are going into play. So we just balanced those out and we continued to fund, but it'll be an item that will come to the board in years where we may have to choose, do we fund or do we run a capital project in lieu of funding? But at this point, we just made the adjustments to follow prior year's assumptions. And the most significant long-term impact still remains in the decline of projected ending cash. And that is with $11 million capital SIP projects projected for this fiscal year of 26-27. It is an aggressive approach to get caught up with some of the elements that are required for the infrastructure. And then Director Ramirez will talk about it in the next item, is how do we plan to continue to achieve and roll into these items of balancing out our capital annual expenses. So right now we see it essentially take radical jumps as we're forced to get stuff done rather than planning them ahead where we can get a balanced capital SIP program. And roughly from what we can see in optics, $5 to $6 million is going to be our target after operating expenses. So we're already in a net positive position for operating expenses, and we want to better continue to establish the need to pay off our capital projects for that same year. And so we're encompassing on it. We're very close, and our strategy is starting to tell the telltales of where we're going to have to get the results and also still continue to be pensive to make pivots around some of the attributes that we're looking for. That's really diversifying the revenue, getting more revenues, being very efficient, but and then also stabilizing what we're doing with our capital expenses. That is the item that is most glaring to us right now that we got to realize, but we can't defer infrastructure because it comes with risk and liability. So we're analyzing it. This year we did take a big whack at prioritizing the number of items that were due and the ones that were selected, and you can see the majority of them will fall in landfill, and there's a few projects going on in MRF. So those are the major items, and I think we want to be able to continue to still look at results, pivots, additional revenue, and then complete infrastructure projects so that we can get them done and we can stabilize the need of annual capital. I think we'll have several years where it may be inconsistent, but we are going to have to ensure that we're not running out of money, because that's the telltale sign, is that we would run out of free cash flow. But we definitely know that we don't want to. We want to balance out our position as we approach these significant expenses in the capital outlay. So in revenue, really no material changes. In expenditures, we've seen the CPI updated from 3.0 to 3.8. One assumption that hasn't been completed is the allies unit assumptions. We are using the number that's there currently, but we also know that we're right in the middle of bargaining. So we don't have that number. I expect that we would be extremely close by the June 19th meeting, and I'm hoping that the union would be willing to accept our offer at that time. And then we'd come to the board at that time to request that the board authorize us to agree to the position with the union upon ratification, and we would get our board approval at that time so we can implement on time for July 1. We've had 2 meetings so far. A third is scheduled. One item of contingency around the bargaining is that we did ask for a 5-year term with this unit, and the union will be here tomorrow or today, later on today, and really take a polling from the unit itself to see if they're willing to do a 5-year term, and then we can get their second proposal and really analyze how close we are to completion. So I'm excited that we're at. The employment cost again was relative to about 171,000 for that position of 3.3% to 3.8%. Net income changed from 18% to 24%, a decrease over the year. And again, we are expecting, we built our budget around the uncertainty around the global economy. That's the fuel, that's the expenses and parts. That's also driving third-party increases for services as well. This year, we're going to net over 4 million that can pay for some of the capital projects. Next year, we're estimating 2 million. Depending on how this global uncertainty resolves itself, is it rather quickly? Does it linger on for a while? Could be the difference between making 2 million and making 4 million. And then also going and getting additional revenue or results that could reinforce our capital position of getting more projects done in a shorter period of time to stabilize the number as we decide whether we want to continue with external revenue or reducing the volume in 2036 at that time. I think on the reserve projections is our reserves are in place, and I just will remind the board is that while the capital reserve update changes are projected and the balances are looking at, we'll continue to come back to the board and see if we want to apply those reserves in a different form. Do we want to use them for some of the projects? Do we want to use them for some of the capital equipment purchases that we're doing? We hadn't done it historically. We aggressively said we want to contribute, but in these next few years, as we see cash coming down, we may say, let's use a portion of the reserve rather than driving our free cash flow down to zero. So we'll have options as we move forward. And those are the majority of the changes that we're impacting our draft budget into our final budget. Not too many significant changes. What we'll be presenting in the next group is really the head count and some of the changes. I think our head count changes by 0.25 of full-time employee, but there is some significant changes in there, and there's still some positions that we haven't been able to get all the way to the finish line. So you may hear us come back and request different positions and different augmentations, just because we haven't had the sheer time to get it all done before the budget, trying to build it, trying to be on time. We had the rate going on, and then we also had the bargaining going on. And then we had transition of some pretty significant roles at the time. So even our big contributions and wins, we've been kind of shortfalling our employees with expectation and celebrating them, mainly because we've been so short-staffed. So we jump from one thing to another. So I'm excited that we can approve the budget in June and really get into a position to fill the vacancies, get us all caught up and making sure everybody's taken care of, and be prepared for a 10-year run to deliver some pretty amazing results, efficiencies. Our operation, our conduct, our people, and our behavior are all coming into line, and it's about time. I'm pretty excited where we're at, and we're in striking position, but we do gotta make sure that we're tendering everybody that's here today and realizing how important it is to retain. And what I've heard from the board is we really want to make sure that we're taking care of the folks so that we have some longevity and that they can deliver some service here at the organization. So recognize that we will be coming back with a few other items that have to do with people and positions, to making sure that they're either at the market or within the value of the organization of what their contributions may be. I'll take some questions at this time if you have them.
So in your org chart, the absences or the positions that are not filled, those positions are budgeted in this year?
Yes.
Okay. So you expect those positions to be filled?
Yes. The assistant general manager position is one that is new and that we're introducing into the board. I think the memo explains it all with talking about where we're at and the need of our organization at this time, with many capital projects that need to be completed, with some initiatives that we want to get done with landfill gas into either some sort of power or renewable natural gas. And this would really allow the organization to now start working outward. And this is my role, going outward and starting to work some of these items that will be legacy items that will contribute to the effort to 2036. Right now it is, I think our directors are carrying more responsibilities than the role requires. And I think this AGM role will not only be a benefit to the general manager, but to every director that we have and to the influence into the operation. And something that we've kind of discussed, and we feel like it is a very good option for us at this time. I think the need presents itself, and we have a way to offboard this position if it comes available. And I would say at the time that I'm ready to leave, it may be a consideration for the board to say, do we need these two roles at this time based on that need at the time of offboarding? But for now, I think there is a significant amount of projects that we all haven't had our hands in, and we can really benefit from execution of capital projects and keeping our workforce running efficiently. And I think that is the value in the position. I think shortly after we would come back and start looking to how the assistant general manager gets married with the ops director position that it's been vacant for some time. And I've got to give a lot of acknowledgements to the supervisors and the managers in place that have supported the operation and the need of the workforce, but to still get the job done and still allow us to be in the detail of what we need to execute on as an organization. And then we did see another change in the Director of Finance and Administration. We are recommending that we do not hire another Director of Human Resources, but hire a Senior Manager for Human Resources that would be under the Director of Finance and Administration. And we also are recommending that we make a change in the role of Assistant Ops Director, and we are calling it Manager of Landfill and Facility Operations. And we know this role is extremely important, but it also is more of a working role to be within the workforce. And so we're seeing a transition. And we are listening to the workforce on what is the need. Is, it's two supervisors, it's one supervisor, is another operator. And but we do recognize that we believe the change back to manager and landfill facility operator represents the actual work that's being performed on a day-to-day. And those are the changes, and you can see the totals at the bottom. We went from 140.25 FTEs to 140.5 FTEs with some title changes and the addition of the assistant general manager role.
You have on here the senior safety manager. Don't we already have?
We do. We have a safety manager, and we realized that we wanted to make this change to the safety manager role only because Anthony was handling the mitigation of risk task with SDRMA, which is our insurance provider. So he assumed more roles as we offboarded the human resources director that was handling some of that. And the risk was living within finance department and the general manager. And we felt it could live within this single person already. And we made those changes to his role already as a senior safety manager. If the board adopts this budget as is, it will be effective July 1.
Okay, so it's blue not because we don't have that person, but because we're changing
Uh,
the alignment.
the job descriptions
Mhm.
and their responsibility and the task and
see.
roles.
I see. Now, I just want to comment, I really appreciate the narrative in the budget. Going over all the reserve policies or, aligning it with our guidelines. I really thought it was well done. So, appreciated that.
We're gonna get better. I think this was a very challenging lift for the organizations, the way the transition occurred, the mic drop transition to having all of us support the transition. Anna has been a great support. Ida's been a great support on just trying to build a timeline and a narrative to achieve all the tasks that we've had. And we've been calling it the big three all along. And it's the big three along with all of what we do already. I just have to compliment the team for absorbing all of these additional work transitions. And we're still working through transitions today to get better results, procurement, getting prepared for projects and having, off the shelf contracts and agreements that we could have in place to expedite some of the processes. And Deborah's been immersed with ReGen task as well, because we are transforming what the expectation is. So I just see more opportunities in front of us. David and I, Zoe and I had conversations yesterday, and they were really about, we've made so many transitional changes and accomplishments, yet you look into the horizon and you still see many opportunities, which sometimes it's daunting, right? We put an amazing amount of effort forward and a lot of energy, yet we still have an enormous amount of tasks to accomplish here. So trying not to not get those acknowledgements across the enterprise has been very challenging, because every fragment, every contributor across has positive things that are occurring, and then they're short-lived, right? We celebrate 3 awards and then we move on to the next task, right? And it becomes, how much time do we spend on recognition along with additional tasks? And because there was so much to do, we just feel like we're continuing to eat and we need to slow down. And I think balancing out the workflow and the amount of work that we still have ahead of us would be appropriate for the organization, and meaning that we don't have burnout and that we still get time off and that we still able to recharge our battery with some of our conversation. Is how do we get that energy back for the next chapter that we're ready to write, and we shoot out of the cannon July 1, recognizing we have all these tasks to do, and you'll hear some of those that are coming. But I'm excited with the transition, and I appreciate the recognition. It is well put together.
Yeah.
I'm just excited on what it can look like as we get a few more reps in together, the team together, and we're still recognizing how we're coming together, and we're recognizing there's challenges with just leaving it alone and not doing anything significant to recognize the needs of the organization and some of the positions across the enterprise.
Well, I want to compliment you and the staff. I think with the personnel changes that we had, you guys landed on your feet and had a great landing, because I feel like we have a product that, maybe is even better than we've had before. So it certainly shows the dedication and, how much you guys care about the agency. So I appreciate that.
Thanks, Kim. On the organizational chart, I think it'd be helpful to have a legend for the colors.
Yeah.
I'm colorblind, but I can see the difference. But I see, not counting the clear boxes, I see about 3 colors. And Kim brought up a point at the end. I thought they were all like open positions, and they're not.
Right. Yeah.
Having a legend for the colors would be helpful.
Yeah.
I guess my major point is looking at Rosanna's letter to the board. On her second page, it says in bold type, which I think is really the bottom line: we've been projected to generate positive operating energy, revenue, not energy. Sorry. That's a good thing. Both energy and landfill to gas. And so I'm trying to understand what that means. Positive operating revenue projection. So when I go to the 3-year outlook, that's where I see a projection. And on that 3-year outlook, which is page 22 of 57, or no, that's page 17 of the document, but it's page 22 of our agenda of the budget anyway. But anyway, you see that 3-year outlook, when you go to page 17 or you go to page 22, it says operating revenue. And so, yes, that operating revenue is increasing. But positive operating revenue to me just means more than $0. You earn $1, you've got positive operating revenue.
I think it just means it's not decreasing.
Right. So positive operating, so you have a different meaning for it, right?
Mhm.
So I'm not sure if it's spoken properly, but it's important. So I want to drill down. So do you all see where it says projected to generate positive operating revenue? And then on the 3-year outlook, the operating revenue, which is, the first line of numbers, it shows that it's going up, a couple million every year. So it's not just above 0 positive. I mean, it's not negative, it's positive. And it's also increasing 2 million. So projected to generate increasing revenue every year or something like that would be more specific.
Mhm.
But even more important than that, the operating revenue is not the bottom line, right? The bottom line is either net income or net cash flow or something like that. Our goal is not to have increasing revenue. Our goal really beyond that is to have cash on hand as needed and maybe increasing net income so that we can meet increasing demand for services and all that. But I think that sentence is so important, or some sentence like it, that we want everyone to know in writing and verbally that our future outlook financially is strong, stable, whatever you call it, good, in the good category. So we have an opportunity to sing from the rooftop that bold fonted sentence, but I just want it to be, I want it to say what we want it to say. And saying that it's generating positive operating revenue doesn't really say anything. If your expenses are going up more than that,
Yeah.
or if it's $3 instead, it's just like, it's not proper. And so instead of that, I look down to the blue line, which we're all concerned about, unrestricted cash. We don't want to run out of cash. So it's interesting that net income is positive and increasing every year, but our projected 3-year, unrestricted cash is going down to the point where it's our biggest concern. We want everything to be done to turn that around, and we have a good plan to do that. We have many levers we can pull to do that. But I'm just saying that that's the bottom line of this whole budget, is how we're going to avoid that blue line in real life in the future, and the fact that we're healthy in every other way. But I don't know that generating positive operating revenue projected is the point. So I want to turn it back to staff. What is the point? What can we sing from the rooftop in writing and verbally to make everyone understand we're strong and our projection is good, even though, we do have to be very attentive to cash.
I appreciate the comments. I think they're appropriate. It is. I think we can go back in there and talk to our strong operating, able to cover our operating expenses. Yet our major concern for this fiscal year budget is getting our capital infrastructure completed. Deferred work and caught up is going to be our primary concern, not only in this year, but maybe in coming years as well. And just keeping our focus on, look, we make enough revenue to cover our operating expense if we had to do nothing of maintenance, nothing of infrastructure. So we'll get those components and we'll try to frame that out in that bold sentence to align with what we're seeing in the budget. Good results, good changes, forward thinking. But the main thing has been the capital that has been deferred over time that we're trying to make up the difference. And we realize that if we just make it up without doing anything else, that we'll run out of cash. So this is where we have to acknowledge maybe going to get more revenue, a different type of agreement, adding on to agreements where we can expand the amount of revenue we're getting, giving us a little bit more time to stabilize what our capital improvement is. And we'll work on a team together to try to create a narrative that kind of shares what I've been saying all along, is this is giving us more focus. It's demonstrated that we can cover our operating expenses, and our concern in this year and future years would be our capital expense. So narrating it to that form, and we do have something to point at and say, this is exactly what's happening right now. And it's in the letter itself. So I think we can frame it out, right?
I mean, I have an idea.
Yes.
If you want to test it out. I mean, if you use this existing sentence and add the caveat, positive operating revenue less operating expenses, and then allowing us to contribute to reserves and take care of capital projects, more to what you were pointing at the end, Felipe.
Mhm.
Is taking care of the revenue versus expenses, just adding a little caveat there, less
Yeah.
expenses?
You're in the right direction. So rather than mentioning revenue over expenses, just say net income
Income.
Yeah.
Mhm.
and trying to be as brief as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Sufficient to cover capital expenses.
Mhm.
Expenses. Oh, that's for this year. But this is a future outlook. And this says the 3-year outlook reflects modest projected deficits. It doesn't. There are no deficits. If you look at net income, which is where you'd see a deficit, there's no deficit. That's the opposite of what we said in the sentence below it. Positive operating revenue, she meant revenue over expenses. There's no deficit there. So I think just rewriting that to be concise, but also be positive, because there's a lot of positivity to declare, but just make it accurate so that board members and public can speak a one-line elevator speech. Where are we on our future outlook? So I like that paragraph a lot because it gets to the heart of what's going on in our future. Everyone wants to know our future is strong, but it just seems like it could be reworked.
Okay, got it. Thank you for the direction on that.
All right. And fortunately for all of you, that's all I got.
We're still ready.
No, I think
Appreciate it. Yeah, sorry.
Midnight.
Don't put your foot on the good stuff.
this resulted in midnight adjournment last night.
Oh my goodness.
And last time we were here, it was a 2 or 3 hour meeting, right?
Yeah.
It was a long meeting, so we don't have to repeat that. All right, so would you like to make a motion, Kim?
Alexa? Yes, I move that we recommend this final budget for fiscal year 27.
Second.
Motion passes. Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if she was calling your name.
Yeah.
Yeah, so great. That passed unanimously with the 2 of us voting. And we'll move on to David, 4B.
Thank you. Mayor Delgado, we put this item on the agenda to give some color to what you guys are going to see in the next board meeting. And it's really the kickoff to the final budget as far as the capital improvement projects that we have planned. And so in the budget, you have page 15, which shows the table of all the different capital improvement projects. And a lot of these projects are teed up and ready to go. So there's a number of them which we can talk about now as being ready for implementation. So there's about 4-5 projects that we can move forward on. The first one is module 7 and module 8 development for a total of $700,000. That is going to be used for both module 7 development and the master planning elements that we have going forward. So you're going to see that. The work we've done so far in the discovery phase of the master plan is showing really positive results as far as what we're going to be spending and how long we have for filling. And if you recall on the budget, it does have the capital improvement plans and the liners being some of the big dollar amounts. So we're already seeing positive movement in some of those targets as we look at fill rates and we look at how much space we have left. And we believe further development of the plan and further development of the liner plan will kind of smooth those out in the future. So it's kind of positive information we're getting. Don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves before we do some of the design work to make sure that we're covering all the bases. But those elements are going to come to the board at the next board meeting for approval.
Where is going to be module 8?
Boy, you got me pointing at a map, which I love.
Leaps out of his chair.
I just don't see it.
I'm glad you asked.
Module 7 is here.
Right?
So it's this little, I used to call it a boot. It's this L shape here.
Yeah.
And so module 7A, which is what we're going to be moving forward with lining, is here. It's this slope here. It's a little bit higher than the module 7 boot because we didn't line up all the way up that slope. We only went up to a bench that's right here. There's a bench, so it slopes up, there's a little bench, and then it slopes up some more. And we just lined up to that bench in the anticipation of potentially excavating out this way and then going up to the bench and then going down. However, this is so far off in the future, and we don't foresee us going this way in the future as well. So both in cost and in expediency, that is the fastest and least expensive area to line and get years worth of additional capacity.
So that's not module.
That's module 7 development.
So in here you have module 8 development.
Yeah, so module 8 is this is a target that is on the timeline, can shift depending on if we do this. And so when we were developing this budget early on, we're like, okay, we may have to design both of them because we were not as far along in the master planning discovery phase. Now what we're talking about is here. So I don't think we're going to be developing module 8.
Oh, that's okay.
And so I want to use those funds for master planning. And I'll go through that a little more when we have the board meeting. But module 8 can be gigantic or it can be smaller, like that. And we can phase it so that module 8 is smoother in spend. And when it's not a massive expense that's going to take the liner out to here, we can do smaller liners that match with our finances.
Right, because we're making money on those. We don't want to cut off areas where we're already making revenue.
What do you mean by that?
Like the sand.
Sandbar area?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the sand is an element which is being considered in the master plan as well, because we need it to go away as far as volume. That excavation is making new landfill space.
Yeah.
So as we excavate, we are making the airspace for module 8.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we were to go to module 8 now, we'd have to excavate a lot faster than we are currently.
Yeah.
So that's another reason to focus over here and do this. Give us more time to excavate out here.
Right.
And also phase out module 8 development so that it doesn't cost as much. I mean, the cost is flatter, not a giant peak. And then decide how we contract or excavate this sand. Further, where does that sand go if we need it to move, but we still need it for cover material? That sand would have to go stockpiled somewhere else. And so all these little, these chips on the board, they need to move at certain times, and we need to get that timeline right in how both we're using sand, how we're filling the landfill. And so there's this timeline we've got the skeleton to, which we have enough information to start executing on some of these detailed design contracts and master planning stuff. So that's long answer to your question. Module 8 would be somewhere here. Module 7A we're calling it 7A, is here
Okay,
on these
Good.
slopes.
that's good. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So as Felipe said, we're going to be shooting out of the cannon on July 1st. And so after this budget's approved, we're going to go forward with that project. And then also a number of these MRF projects which we've been teeing up. The first two I'll talk about are MRF controller replacements, which are about 3/4 of the way down. MRF motor control replacements, MRF PLC replacements. So this is due to the age of the MRF equipment, and at least in my head, I don't think of it as being that old, but it's already myself as well, including a brand new here. This is big. Yeah. So up here, it's a young MRF, but however, it's almost 12 years old now. Yeah, like the equipment itself is almost 12 years old. So we're starting to see some of the achy bones, the stuff that need to be maintained. And these items, these PLCs are programmable logic controllers. So these are this is the brain component of the motor. So the motor needs to run at a certain speed. It needs to detect high currents. So if there's a jam, it can stop or slow down, speed up, etc. So that part is like the brain. These PLCs that were installed, that were manufactured 12 years ago, are old. They're starting to fail. Components of them are starting to fail. They're starting to be latency. So they may want it to speed up, but it won't speed up as quickly. They won't get the response time that they need to adjust to the different materials. And they've actually stopped making these PLCs, these little mini brains for each motor. And if one of those goes bad and you can't replace it, you can't move the motor. It won't go. So these PLCs, all the PLCs, they've been failing like one at a time, and we've had a really hard time getting those parts. We've had some of them in stock, but we're running out. We need more assurances that we're going to have these PLCs when we need them. So this project would be upgrading those PLCs to a modern PLC that's readily available and can keep. It's really a risk mitigation measure, because if one or more of these PLCs keep going out, we can't get the part that MRF can't operate. So nothing is catastrophic right now, but it's a risk mitigation. And then similarly, the motor controllers. So if the PLC is the brain, the motor controllers are the muscle. And so once the brain's made a decision to speed up, these motor controllers are sending the correct amount of current to the motor to have it speed up or slow down. So these similarly are also starting to have latency and starting to fail as we age, as the equipment starts to age. So both of these are significant dollar amounts. The motor controllers are $425,000 and the PLCs are $180,000. And so we want to get that risk mitigated to make sure that the MRF can operate reliably. So those two you'll see on the coming board meeting. And then the one above that, emergency exit access points, that is for the MRF as well. And it is to mitigate a emergency exit pathway. So right now there's one emergency exit pathway out of the sort area, up there where they're doing the pre-sort. There's one exit out of there, and per OSHA standards, per requirements, that is sufficient for how long the work area is, how long that platform is. It's sufficient. However, just being compliant is not what we want to be. We want to add another exit point for the staff so that they're able to get down a set of stairs. So up on top we have the platform, and we want to take them down a different set of stairs on the other side of this exit point, the opposite side of the single exit point, so that they can exit, so that they can they don't have to go underneath any conveyors when they exit. They can just get straight down the ground and right out of the building. And so this is a steel set of stairs that kind of allows that to happen. And as a bonus, we're also going to add another connection point to the other side of the building. So there's going to be a set of stairs down, and then there's another pathway, a travelway that we're going to be adding to connect one side of the building to the other. So this is probably something that we could have done in the earlier development of the project, in the earlier development when it was first installed, but the circumstances of working in the building have led us to be like, we just need to build these stairs and get a secondary access through that. So
Was it a cost saving measure to begin with, not to do it?
it was a cost saving measure. Yeah. So there was a judgment call of like, well, we have an exit, and then we had incidents that.
Thank you, David, for the narrative and tiptoeing around it. We did have an incident that made us realize that we needed a safety exit. We had an incident that we want to mitigate risk in this area. So thank you for tiptoeing around it. This is the fix that we desire to have so that nobody's hurt in an emergency scenario. We had a potential fire on the line, and we had to go towards the fire to get back out. And we don't ever want that to happen again. So we recognized the incident, and we started taking action immediately after. So I appreciate you tiptoeing around it. We did have an incident that brought the safety and mitigating the risk for our employees on that platform at any given time to get on the safe exit out.
2 exits are always better than 1.
Yes.
Yeah, and it speaks to risk anticipation back in the day. You know, when you plan this, you think about where might there be an explosion, where might be a fire, and if there is, what's the worst case scenario, and then what do the employees have to do? And running toward a fire is something you can anticipate. If your exit's on one end and you have a problem in the middle, you know that. I like this also because it gives 2 exits. So even if there's less of a crowd jam, right? Not everyone's trying to get out the same exit. You got 50-50 going both directions, which is probably nicer. Lots of reasons why it's better to have 2.
This is the flavor of the capital projects. They're either mitigating, we've reduced the project list to either mitigating risks that we have or correcting operational inefficiencies or safety issues. And then also trying to hit these must-dos for the timeline of landfilling development. So that's all. That's what I have. You'll get more details in the memos that we write to execute these. I'm sorry. One more item which may come depending on how the pricing comes in is LFGTE facility, the very top one. That's probably either coming this month or in August, and that's improvements at the landfill gas plant to rebuild an engine. That may or may not come to the June meeting, but that's also like teed up, ready to go. So all included, not with that LFGTE facility, there's just the MRF and the Module 7 for the module landfill stuff. That's $1.5 million, which is going to come to the board at least next month or this month.
David, those replacements for the MRF equipment, the motor controller and the PLC replacements, is that going to make it more efficient? Like, are those workers going to notice a difference when those things are replaced? They're going to be like, wow, this is working a lot better.
There's going to be like that latency I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So there'll be some efficiencies in like the machine will be able to react quicker and to the material. But really the hope is they won't notice anything because nothing will go wrong. You know, the opposite would be that they would notice it if these started failing. Right. You know, the failure rate is going to probably increase as time goes on. Yeah. And so we want them to continue, we want continuous operation, and they may see a little bit of efficiency
Okay,
improvements in how the belts run and how they
Right.
react when they turn something off,
okay.
or like when they want to speed up a belt. So it'll be better for them in that sense.
Mhm.
Work
But-
into an electrical or plumbing issue in your home where
Yeah,
if it goes wrong, you'll
You'll
notice.
notice.
But also it doesn't.
You forget about it if it.
Yeah, and it also is not the kind of thing where you're like, oh, that's visually adding value.
Yeah, no, yeah.
it's not a shiny, fun
No, of course. not.
project. It's kind of
Yeah.
keeping things running and eliminating a risk of something big going
Mhm.
wrong.
Mhm. I appreciate your approach to thinking about safety and, making sure that our equipment is
And
remains up and running.
big recognition to David Salcedo. He saw David Salcedo, the MRF manager down there. He's like, this is slowing down, and he starts looking at parts. And he told me, hey, this is what we need. We need to replace these PLCs because he can foresee that the rate at which they're failing and the availability is decreasing. So he's the one who operator feedback is key in this kind of scenario. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's great.
So that's it.
All right, so with the LFGTE 700K, the 300K for module 7, the 280K for emergency exit,
Mhm.
and then the first two MRF items, controllers and PLC, not counting roof coating. Just so what I add up is 1.9 million for those things, not including the roof coating for the MRF.
Mhm.
So I think you're saying that in the next few months, near future, we'll see about $1.9 million coming through on our agenda for authorization.
If not more. So to get all these projects done and to get them built, we have to execute pretty quick on these. So this is just the first batch of that we're going to be bringing.
Right, so the first
to-
batch is about 1.9 million. I'm all for it. I think it's great. You got to do it, and we have the money, and just got to worry about the future 10 years, whatever. But this is great. I love this stuff. Getting stuff done, shooting out the can. I'm confused about the 400K because I thought initially after your presentation you said module 8 400K was going to happen, but now I think in your presentation at the map it's not going to happen.
Yeah. And so the way that this budget was developed and in the view we had at the time, we thought we had to start both module 7 and module 8 based on the old capital improvement plan that was inherited. At the same time, we initiated master planning efforts. So we started initial discovery. The first thing I wanted from the master planning consultant was to start building the timeline. I need to know how much fill we have right now with the liners we have, the easy fill, the stuff that kind of sets us up, how much time we would need to build the module 7A, and how much time we would need to build module 8, and what that would get each one of those pieces would gain us. And initial feedback is that module 7 is what we want to build and start designing. Module 8, that fund can be used for master planning or instead of the module 8 development. But what that's going to do is probably kick that 6 million in 2930. That's probably going to kick over off the page.
Mm-hmm.
And also the module 7, 27, 28, that's going to move to the right on the page. So the reason there's a change in how we're talking about it is because new information is becoming available because of the engineering we're doing to time it correctly.
Okay. So can we change the title of that cell to be master planning instead of module 8 development?
We can. We're at some of the final hours of the budget, but yeah, we can modify that. It'll probably
it's no longer accurate.
It'll
right?
probably be adding a line, and this is where it's not. I'm talking about initial stuff that we're
Gonna bring in the first.
yeah, that we're still developing. And so I've said, okay, we're gonna go with this for this year. And then as we develop the master plan, we'll make those adjustments in future years of how this timeline looks. So it's a little bit, I'm hesitant because I'm still doing the design as we speak.
David, can I just make a recommendation that we just put like a slash mark and add master planning, because your discussion
Yeah.
will have the overlay. You know, we had this option, but it looks like it's changing into this option, and it has a description in there that will cover the both scenarios, and really not do nothing with the dollars, but just add the master planning logo in there, because when you talk about it, if anybody's as sharp as Bruce, they're gonna ask the same question, and you're gonna say, look, it's overlay, we're getting new information.
Yeah.
It's gonna be within one of these categories, which is leading us into the same direction, is we need more infrastructure developed for landfilling term, right? And I think if it does it just by adding the master planning into just the project.
Yeah, because you still need the projection of module 8 and what that's gonna cost.
Yeah.
And I'll need to confer with Rosanna just on how the accounting for it would, how the budgeting works for it, because the master planning is not
It's not a capital
a
project.
capital project.
That's what I was thinking.
It's two capital projects, but it's not a asset as far as a physical thing that you
Sure.
have in
Yeah.
here.
Mm.
So
Got it.
Maybe it's
I-
dependent upon
I'm
master planning.
recalling a conversation I had with her where she schooled me on this. And I wanna double check that it's not somewhere else.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
training us well.
Budget. But I hear what you're saying, and I know we have it in here as module 8 development, and that is due to the inherited CIP and master and plan that we had. I'm actively right now changing that outlook and making and crossing T's and dotting I's on all the assumptions in there to right size how our development's going to go.
To be blunt, the term cherry picking came to mind when you were standing up there. And you made some kind of a comment that doing the module 7 in the boot area in the short term is basically going to push off the need to make a decision on a larger ticket item. And I can understand why we're doing that, because we're trying to get that blue, unrestricted cash
Yeah.
righted. And so by making less expenditures in the next few years, that decreases that blue line. But if the flip side is that it increases the blue line in the future, are we just kicking the can? So I just want to talk about that.
I'll jump in. I think the approach is accurate, because we could initiate module development if we were to get another contract, or we to extend another contract. We can start saying, now we can do this earlier than push it down, right? And I think the goal for the organization should be how much can they afford to develop for more years of landfill life early, right? And I think when I first got here, there was a concern of how much fill area we had available at the current time, and thus we went and started module 7 and completed that project, and we got ourselves more time. So we're looking at time. You're exactly right. I don't think that the intent is to kick it down the road, but realize what other contributions can we make into these future years projections that would alter our decision making, whether that be pushing it out or saying we have enough money now to the board that we can say, let's have an early adoption of developing this module. We know it's coming. We know it. We can push it 3 years out, or we also know now we can afford it. If we just did nothing and no changes, no pivots, we wouldn't be able to afford it.
Mhm.
And thus, to your point, would be kicking it down, but we are making projections to alter our pathway to get there. This is just a scenario alleviating the concern that we will absolutely run out of money in 3 years. I don't think that will be the case, but it does lead us to different base cases based on what's occurring and what type of information David is gathering with the assumptions around what gives us the most space for the least amount of dollars, that gives us more time to create more revenue streams or reduce capital expenses along the way. So it's just a way to squish it down, the concern, and then also know that we are gonna have potentials of doing it earlier or later based on the actions that we take within every year of opportunity up until 2036.
Okay, so would it be accurate if I were to consider our plans for module 7 as a bridge to give us time for the master planning to happen so that we could better plan module 8, how big, how many pieces? Once we understand more of our 10-year plan, then we'll know more likely what we're going to do with module 8. And doing what we're doing with module 7, holding off on module 8, will give us that bridge time we need to figure it out.
Well, there's a couple of impacts of doing module 8. One is the big financial spike that it causes. So that we would either need to borrow money for to make that happen, and so there's costs.
Or sign new contracts.
Sign new contracts. Go, bet on that happening. We've got to find it. It may not exist out there. We may not be able to get it. So that's a risk. If we go with wanting to do module 8, we either need to borrow the money or go get new contracts.
Or increase rates.
However, the module 7 stuff is also the reason those slopes were left as is were also maybes. That we may in 50 years expand to the south. Maybe. That is not the current way the property is shaped. That would take a lot of coordination with neighbors, et cetera, permitting. So that also is a maybe. What we do know right now is that if we line that slope, we play that chip. We may not
in 7 or 8.
In 7.
Okay.
In 7, that we see this economic hill that we have to climb, and if we play this chip here, we can make that economic piece go away, and we're still in line with the way the landfill is supposed to be developed, and it's not relying on these maybes that could happen. And it's a previous idea that didn't need to have so much weight on how we make decisions, whether or not we line that slope. So we're not really losing much by lining that slope. We're taking advantage of the area that we have right now.
Yeah, I guess now that you say that again, I thought that topographically, logistically, it's easier to do 7 because it's set up to make it relatively easy compared to the options.
Yes.
And so I thought, does that mean in the future we have harder options and we're taking the easy option first, but in the future we're setting up people in this room in the future to have a harder option because we took the easy option first?
No. This is a logical progression. If given our footprint that we have now, there were potentials that might happen that we're being held on to, but the most logical thing for us to do with our footprint and our plan is to line those slopes. We probably should have lined up the top of the slope before, like in the original module 7, we probably should have gone all the way up the slope. However, there was a decision made to go to the bench, and it's not that we are taking the easy route. This is the next progression that we would do logically, without any kind of forecasting of what might happen in the future, or meaning to accomplish a lot to make it happen, like have other neighbors who agree that we're going to expand in a different way. So with all the stuff in front of us, the financial pieces, the maybes that may happen, the most economic and expedient thing to do is to line up those slopes, gain 5 more years of landfill space, smooth out that financial curve to push the development of module 8 farther out, give us more time to excavate out the sand to install module 8. And all those things on the table, this is the way to go.
Great. My last item is kind of a good news thing. When you're up at the map on the wall, I get it better than I got it before. When I went on that tour, and we spent a little bit of time at the landfill watching them fill a portion of that module 7, and you telling us here's where the other module 7 cell next fill piece is going to be. So what my point is that after the elections in November, when you have a new board, I think it'd be helpful to have a field trip be embedded in a meeting. So you start out here, so you get everyone here. It's not just a field trip where they don't show because it's extra credit or whatever. So you start your meeting here, you exit for 30 minutes, you run to the landfill, you show them the cells. Because for me, when I see the cells, I feel like a kid with Legos. It inspires me, it grounds me. It's like, okay, I know what we're doing here. It's not just coming in and talking about all these ideas. I see the major purpose of what we do and I see how it's developing. And then when you talk about 7 and 8, they've seen it, they know it. That's the first time I really looked at the
Yeah,
land.
he told me he's been here all this time and never took a tour like that.
Yeah.
Also learned an amazing amount of attributes of what we're considering and the pathways that we're traveling and how we're being curious about all the opportunities.
Yeah, but it was extra credit, so you don't expect all the board to, take the discretionary trip. But embedded just the landfill piece, so you can, I don't know, just that plus seeing it means a lot to me to invigorate me to want to be here, even though I was already invigorated. But it's like, oh yeah, okay,
Well,
that's great.
And we had Councilmember Biala here, right, as well. And I explicitly remember her comments was like, just very impressed on how sophisticated the organization is with all its operations, all its thought process, everything that we're looking into. That forward view of thinking that we talked about through different segments of all the different operations under the global umbrella of our organization. She was impressed and she really made one statement that we always working on is how do we make the public recognize all the efforts that we do to do it responsibly, to do it with considerations for the environment, and the service that we're providing that nobody really knows about, right? Unless you're attached to it some way or another, being on the board, whatever, how you're attached here is your awareness around it. But for maybe some of the average users that just roll their cart out to the curb are absent to all of the performance that they're getting from this organization. And so that really stuck to me is like, how do we get those messages out there enough for even the user that uses it the least, that they can acknowledge the amazing work that's being performed here to manage the waste materials, recycled materials, organic materials, you name it. It was a very good tour. I think it was eye-opening for myself on how we narrate our stories of accomplishments. And again, there's just so many things going on. It's really hard to paste it up everywhere, but it was a very good tour that, I would take your recommendation for the new.
I want to go.
Yeah.
How logistically we get an entire board on a field trip
A light agenda.
and the public.
When there's a light agenda.
No, the timing is not an issue.
We have a
Like,
bus now that will hold every board member.
you have to invite
It holds 15.
all the public who
15?
wants to
It
come.
does need to be a noticed meeting if
Right.
of the board is coming on the tour, so we
Right.
would have to invite the public, but if it's part of your regular
You
meeting.
could rent vans for the day for the public.
If we had to,
Needed,
right?
if needed.
You can do stream live.
Could we ask?
And just events.
Who's gonna come?
Public.
You have to do it on the day. All right, so we have a couple of events lined up. All right,
That'd be fun.
all right. We'll work on it. Thank you for your approach, yes.
Every school has 6 vans sitting every day, and usually they're unused. And so maybe you could borrow them for the day from MPOC. Yeah, okay, so would you like to, I don't think we need to vote.
It's more
because it's discussion.
informational.
Yeah.
General Manager Communications,
I have none at the time.
future agenda items. Okay, there's one thing I want to mention. I don't see a place for board communications, but just had a good one. Oh, thank you to Zoe and Kristen for coming last night to our.
Kristen was there.
Weren't you there too?
I was not present. We split the council meetings in half because we have,
Two.
for this item, we had to go to 7 councils. So we split them in half.
Gotcha.
So we didn't have too many late
Yeah,
nights.
so
either.
thanks to Kristen. And she spoke and she did a great job. Kind of pulling it all together after there were many speakers of many haulers. And then thanks to Kristen and Zoe who attended yesterday morning, which would have been Monday morning, looking at that concern about equity, because you can make it look on paper like if you live in an apartment, you're overpaying for the same product of organics, recyclable, and garbage. The single family homes aren't paying. So it makes it look like single family homeowners are contributing less compared to apartment dwellers, multifamily residents. And it's funny how it can be made to look like that, but it's not like that at all. But just bringing it up afforded Greenway sent 4 people, ReGen sent 2 people, City had 3 or 4 people. It afforded everyone a chance to hear out how are the rates affected by SB 1383 differently, because SB 1383 affected apartment complexes, multifamily differently than residential for good reason. And it just brought up a lot of issues that are going to be helpful for the city and the waste and ReGen. Green Waste. Some of the people there were learning a lot. I talked to them at the end, and it's like the person in charge of customer satisfaction manager. I forget the title. She said, "Yeah, this was great. I didn't know a lot of that." So it was all because one person basically was complaining for like 3 years. And finally we said, okay, we'll get everyone in the room. We'll hear you out. And it turns out my bottom line is that there is no inequity unless we dive even deeper and look at more things than she brought up and find one. And so the city council last night, we'll see if they follow through, but they were very willing to, in the next year, next 12 months before the next cycle of 1 year increase, to dive into this philosophical search for inequities. Because what we also learned last night was that if there are inequities, they were baked in to the Green Waste contract in year 1, because it was just a rollover of the waste management rate structure. So whatever philosophies went into the waste management structure were just carried over. And then since then, Green Waste has been upping them, 3-4% every year. So the equities just were cooked in, and then we just went up. We've equitably, maybe equally, maybe not even equitably, but we've equally raised rates ever since then, 3-4%, whatever it's been. So it was a really good discussion last night at City Council. Councilmember Biala was very appreciative of the tour that Felipe and Eric Palmer and Zoe, were you on that?
No.
Trying to give you credit.
Organize it. Thank you.
Yeah, so
we have a great team all around.
Yeah, so just thanks to staff, particularly Zoe, Kristen, Eric, and Felipe for your public outreach. It's been great.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so we are adjourned.